Hey everyone, George here from Mini Madness. Today what we're going to be doing is installing this limited slip differential from OS Giken into the Project GP transmission. One of the things that's beneficial about this limited slip differential is that it applies power to both wheels instead of just one, which is what the factory differential does. And so when you have high horsepower applications, which would tend to sort of make one wheel slip and only apply traction to the other, this will allow you to get all that power and traction to both wheels at the same time. So what we're going to do is show you how to take apart the factory case, pull out the differential, take off the ring gear, and press on new bearings onto the new differential, change the fluid, and put everything back together again. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take out all the Torx bolts that are all around this whole transmission, and there's quite a few of them. And what we're going to be using is a T40 Torx bit to do that. And like I said, there's a lot of Torx bolts around this whole thing. A couple of them require a few tricks to get out. But what we'll do is we'll show you how to do that right now. So we're just going to start by going around and literally zipping out all these bolts, these Torx bolts right now. So let's go ahead and get started. There's some inside the bell housing as well. Now if you come around on this side, I'll swing the transmission around so you can see. You'll see that there's one Torx bolt that's back here, but it's obviously underneath this bell housing. And so what you do is you take your Torx bit off, you set it inside the bolt right there like that. Can you see that? Okay, then you take your extension and you stick it down through this access hole in the top. That allows you to take it out that way. A little tricky. You've got one more on this side, and that should be it. With the bell housing bolts. And then what you have is over here you have the shifter cable mount, which is this plastic bracket, and there's three bolts that hold that on, same Torx bit. I'm going to take those out real quick. Go ahead and set that aside and remove all your bolts. Next we'll pry the two bell housing parts apart. Okay, so now that we have all the Torx bolts out of the transmission, we can go ahead and split the case. And you'll notice here there's a couple tabs that you can use to pry against here and on the other side. And you just kind of want to work it back and forth, and until the half just separates and comes right apart. So we'll go ahead and get started with that with some pry bars. You can use screwdrivers and things like that. Just be careful on the two mating surfaces. They're machine surfaces, and so you don't want to mar those up really at all if it's possible. So you just kind of get pry bars in there and get started with working those apart. You can see already, if you look down here, you can see that so far this has already started to separate on that side. So we'll get the other pry bar on the other side here and get started with that. Like I said, you just kind of work it back and forth. So now we've pretty much separated. I can tell that it's been separated from the bottom half. We should be able to lift it right off at this point. There we go. There's the inside of the Getrag 6-speed transmission. And right here is the factory limited, or the factory differential that we're going to be replacing. That's this unit right here. Cut it. Okay, so now that we have the case split apart for our Getrag transmission, we're going to go ahead and take out the ring gear bolts around the existing differential, and we're going to do that while it's actually inside the transmission. The reason why we do that is it helps. We like to basically do it inside here because it gives you sort of just a good surface to kind of work on without the thing kind of tipping over on your bench or whatever. It's good to just kind of take out these bolts in place, just a little more stable. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of wipe everything down real quick, wipe off the mating surfaces, just make sure they're free of the sealant that they use from the factory that goes on there. That way when you put things back together, you're not going to have a chunk of that dried up sealant interfering with a good seal. So we're going to kind of wipe that down. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to take out the factory magnet that's in the bottom of the transmission, and that's right here. So if you come over here, you can kind of see where this sits. Can you see this? Come closer. If you look right in here, you've got this big round magnet, looks like a donut. And what you'll see is that this transmission is very new. It only has 1,000 miles on it. But what you'll notice when I wipe this off is you'll notice how dark that is. Those are small metal fibers and fragments and dust from the transmission and normal operation and kind of wear. And so the magnet kind of picks all that up. So we always like to pull that out and just wipe it down really quick and just make it nice and clean, and then just kind of drop it back into the slot. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and take out the bolts around the ring gear like we talked about. Okay, so now that we have those ring gear bolts out, I pull those out. Now these bolts are in with Loctite, so what we do is when we put them back in, we're going to use some red Loctite on each bolt to reinsert those. So remember that. We'll kind of hit that again when we go to put them back in. Just give them a quick little wipe down. Okay, and then you can simply lift the differential out, just like that. Okay, and there it is. So that's the factory differential. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to basically knock the ring gear, the factory ring gear, off of this differential so that we can insert it onto our new differential. So, like I said, what we're going to do is take this factory ring gear off of the factory differential. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it upside down, set it on a nice flat surface with some sort of a rag or something underneath, or a piece of cardboard. And then you're just going to lightly tap all the way around the edge of this differential, not on the edge of the teeth, more on the inside, okay? Not on the edge, on the inside. And that ring gear should just kind of pop loose and they'll just drop right down. Just kind of work your way around. You can also use a block of wood in between your hammer. That'll also help kind of protect it. We've been doing this long enough where we know how to not hit those edges of the teeth. But if you want to use a little 2x4 or a small piece of wood as a barrier between that, you can do that as well. You'll see here in a second they'll just drop right down. Like that. Just remove your factory diff. Put that aside. And now you've got your factory ring gear that you can put on the new limited slip differential. Okay. Is we're going to reinstall the ring gear onto the new limited slip differential. There's kind of sort of a procedure for that. So obviously you want to put the ring gear on the right way, same way it came off the old one. And what we're going to do is line up the holes visually, and then